Shalom, shalom to everybody. Shalom to all the people viewing or watching us today. Shalom wherever you are from all over the world. Last time I saw that we had people watching us from Philippines, from Ecuador, from all over the world, and it's always very exciting. And I'm happy to be back because today we're back with a solution. I think we're dealing today with one of the most perplexed questions there is in the Torah. It's one of the most difficult things to understand. It's a feeling that things are not fair. It's not fair what we're reading here. Let's see what we're talking about. We're actually talking about, I'm reminding you, we're in the book of Numbers, Bamidbar, chapter 20, the portion of Chukat, which we are reading this week in Israel. It is Shalom Joe Rodriguez. I please remind everybody, when you write your name, you say Shalom. Tell us where you're from. So we have here right now Hengi Ben Kubun from Indonesia. Shalom from the Ambon Island of Indonesia. Wow, sounds like a very exciting place. So what we're talking about today is the big question, the most perplexed question. Charlene, shalom, welcome. The most perplexed question in the Torah. Why couldn't Moses and Aaron bring the people of Israel into the promised land? We have Joe Rodriguez from Melbourne, Madian Babu from India, Charlene Barcilo is with us, and we have here Joe Rodriguez, I said, and Henki Ben Kubun from Indonesia. We have Robert Robertson from Australia. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day yourself. I'm sure you also couldn't fall asleep last night, all of you, because you didn't understand why was Moses not allowed to go into the land. I want to just read the sentences the Torah describes in the book of Numbers, in chapter 20, in the verse 12, which is one of the most striking verses there is in the Torah. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe ve'el Aharon, and the Lord said to Moses and to Aaron, Yan lo he'emantem bi, since you did not have faith in me. Listen who he's talking to. He's talking to Moses and Aaron, the two great leaders of Israel. Because you didn't have faith in me, lehakdisheni, to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel, leinei bnei Israel, lachen lo taviu et hakahal hazeh el haaretz asher natati lehem. And therefore you're not going to bring this congregation, this assembly, into the land I have given them. Hema mei merivah, these are the waters of strife, of dispute, where the children of Israel contended with the Lord, and he was sanctified through them. It says here he was sanctified. So we're blaming Moses for not sanctifying. Moses and Aaron were blamed. They didn't have faith in God. They didn't sanctify God's name. And here we see that they did sanctify. So what is the story? What is the story here? What was the sin? What did they do wrong? So in order to do that, listen, because it's a short piece of the Torah, 13 verses, we're going to read them and we're going to try to understand. And if you have any questions, you can put up your questions here while we're here also, and we will try to refer to your questions as well. Vayavo b'nei Yisrael. I'm reading Numbers chapter 20, verse 1. And the entire congregation of the children of Israel arrived at the desert of Tzin. In the first month, the people settled in Kadesh. Miriam died there and was buried there. So let's first start with this sentence here. I think it's not a simple question at all, not a simple sentence at all. What does it say? And the people of Israel, the sons of Israel, Shalom Charlene, the sons of Israel, the entire congregation of Israel arrived at the desert of Tzin in the first month. Now, I want to ask a question. Sometimes the Torah does not give us a date when something happens. So if it doesn't give us a date, we know the date is not important. Sometimes the Torah gives us a date, so we know the date it's important, when it happened. Here we have something very strange. Is there a date here, or is there not a date here? Well, what do you mean? Of course there's a date here. B'chodesh harishon, in the first month. In the first month of what year? What do you mean, in the first month of what? What year are we talking about? Is the first year, the second year, the third year, the fourth year, the fifth year, the 15th year? We don't know. So what, are you telling us the date or you're not telling us the date? Well, okay. They're coming to Kadesh in the desert of Tzin. And the people settled there. And Miriam died there and was buried there. No, probably the story is going to tell us a lot about Miriam's death. Well, surprisingly, nothing. Not a one word afterwards. Miriam died, passed away. It doesn't even say that people mourned her. Doesn't even say, man, maybe the people were busy with the water problem, so they didn't have time to mourn her, but it doesn't say anything. So why are they mentioning here the death of Miriam? And this is a very, very important question. Shalom or Baruch, what we're talking here right now, studying the book of Numbers, chapter 20. And Lo Hayam, so we see here that the people come on the first month. We don't know what year. We don't know why are they giving us a half a date and not a full date? And what is the importance of the death of Miriam? So we're going to go leave it on that question. Velo hayam mayim la'ida, and the congregation did not have water. Vayikahalu, and they assembled al Moshe ve'al Aharon. Now, the translation here, the translation I have in front of me, from the Chabad website, says they assembled against Moses and Aaron. Here it says al Moshe, they assembled to Moses, or on Moses and Aaron. Is it against him? We don't know. But in verse 3 already we're starting to get an answer. Vayarev ha'am im Moshe, and the nation, the people quarreled with Moses. Vayomru lemor, and they said, if only we had died with the death of our brothers before the Lord. They said they would have preferred to die. Let's continue. Lama havetem et kahal Adonai el hamidbar hazeh lamut sham anachnu nireh. Why have you brought the congregation of the Lord to this desert, so that we and our livestock should be there? Shalom from Denmark. Shalom Cindy Lou. Shalom Jimbo. Thank you so much. Shalom everybody. All the people that are joining us on YouTube Live and on website and on Facebook Live. And why have you taken us out of Egypt to bring us to this evil place? It's not a place for seeds or fig trees, grapevines or pomegranate trees. And there is no water to drink. Moses and Aaron moved away from the assembly. And they went to the entrance of the tent of meeting. And they fell on their faces. Then the glory of the Lord appeared to them. What do we want to understand here? It's a few things. First of all, as I said before, the date, first month. We said before, the death of Miriam, what's the relationship? The people didn't have water. What's wrong? Very, very important question. But suddenly they say, why did you bring us to the desert? I just want to point out, when I asked, it says that the first month, it's quite obvious that we're talking about the 40th month, the 40th year, because we'll see that right away the next paragraph talks about entering and trying to travel towards Israel, towards the land. We see they're going from Kadesh to Hor Hahar, and Aaron dies there, and he's 123. So we're talking about the 40th year. But the question is, why doesn't the Torah tell us what year we're talking about? But then the question is, okay, you don't have water, so you pray for water. Why are they suddenly saying, why did you bring us to this desert? You guys, you've been here for 40 years. Why did you take us out of Egypt? We've heard these complaints before. Why we would have wanted to die in front of God. Why would they want to die in front of God? Who dies in front of God? Who died before the Lord? Who are the brothers that died before the Lord? And so the questions that we're talking about here right now is trying to understand what is this great thing that we're talking about? What happened to the people? What were they crying about? Why did Moses and Aaron answer them? Why did Moses and Aaron go to the tent of meeting and fall on their face and cry? These people are asking for water. Why didn't you bring them water? And then God comes about, and the glory of God, the Lord, appeared. And the glory of the Lord appeared, and it says, "Vayidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor." And the Lord spoke to Moses as follows: "Kach et hamateh, take the staff, ve'akel et ha'ida, and assemble the congregation, you and your brother Aaron, and speak to the rock in their presence, so that I will give forth its water. You shall bring forth water for them from the rock and give the congregation and the livestock to drink. So God says, take the staff, talk to the people, talk to the stone, and it will give water. You will take the water from the stone, and you will water the people and their livestock, cattle. And Moses takes the staff as he was commanded. So it says he's doing okay. And the congregation assembled. That's also what God told him to do. In front of the rock. And he said to them, now listen, you rebels. Can we draw water from you, for you from this? Moses raised his hand and he struck the rock twice with his staff, when an abundance of water gushed forth, and the congregation and their livestock drank. So Charlene asks over here, didn't Moses strike the rock? That's true. Yes, that's what he did. He struck the rock. God told him to talk to the rock, and he struck the rock. But God told him take the staff. When God told him take the staff, what did he do till now? 40 years ago, in the book of Exodus, we know that when God told Moses to take the staff, he told him to hit the rock, and there'll come out water. So what was wrong with what he did? I want to tell you something else. He hit the stone, and water came out, and they all drank. Fine. If the story would have been finished here, nobody would have thought that Moses or Aaron made any sin. They were told to take the staff. They were told to talk, so they hit the stick, the rock. What was so crazy? What was the great sin that God says, you didn't have faith in me to sanctify me in front of the children of Israel? And therefore you shall not bring their assembly to the land which I have given you. So yes, most people, we know that God said, talk to the stone, and they hit the stone. And as one of the people who read here before this week, Simon Dadia said, Moshe and Aaron were held up to the highest of standards. If God said, talk and you hit, you're punished. But come on, guys. Let's compare what Moses did till now. He took the people of Israel out of Egypt. He brought them to Mount Sinai. He begged to God not to kill them. Shalom Marcus from Germany. He begged the God people. He listened to the people for 40 years in the desert. And now he didn't, and he hit the stick, and he hit the rock. And then God says, okay, we're going to give him the strongest punishment possible. How can we do that? How can that be? God, he's taking the people of Israel. He's going to the land of Israel. He hit the rock instead of talking to the rock. So first of all, before we start answering the questions, I want to say something very simple. And I think that whenever we study Torah, we have to remember this. If the Torah lets us try to find out different answers, it means two things, in my eyes. First of all, if there are many answers, it means there's not one answer. If I ask you what day is today, today is Friday. Jumbo asks about, we'll talk. I see here we have Joe Rodriguez has an idea, and Charlene has an idea, and I see some, the Jumbo has an idea. We'll refer to your ideas in a second. But I want to say something very, very important. Before we start looking what the answer is, if I ask you what is today, and you say today is Friday, that means there's not 7 answers. If there's one answer, there's one answer. If there are many answers, it means that there's not one answer. That's one thing. Number 2, and this is the most important thing I think. Whenever we see a situation that the Torah allows us to find a few different answers, we know immediately that the Torah wanted us to understand that the question is greater than the answer. And the Torah wants us to try to understand. And the Torah wants us to understand that there may be different ways to understand it. God didn't by accident leave places for questions. God specifically put a question and he wanted us to find the answer. And he wanted us to think that there are different answers. So as was said before, Charlene, for instance, said, he struck the rock instead of talking to the rock. Then we have here Joe Rodriguez, who says that he hit the rock twice. He should have hit it only once. Yeah, that's also one of the answers that is brought here. We have here, I saw here that somebody said that, as I said, Joe said that he shouldn't have hit it twice. Somebody here said, Let me just see what else was brought here. I saw somebody said before, he was angry. Why did he get angry at the people? He yelled at the people, and he called them rebels. It's also a different kind of attitude. But I want us first to understand that the question is a very important question, and all the answers we're giving are not good enough, I feel, to give the answer. And sometimes the question is even better than the answer. I also mentioned in the book of Deuteronomy, in chapter 1, the Torah tells us, Moses tells us, that he was punished because Jumbo said he was angry and God didn't give him anything, but when he hit the rock, normal water came out. I think that all the answers that are given leave us with a feeling that something's not fair here. Something is not fair here. And I really want to try to understand what the story is. Charlene says they were complaining. That's true, they were complaining. But let's read again what they were complaining, and I want you to try to understand something very interesting. We'll read it again, what we said here, and we'll see. I think the story that we read here is really something quite interesting, and we'll see what are the people complaining. We started off with the question. Okay, Agnes said he shouldn't be angry when he strikes the rock. Okay, we'll speak about that. And we'll try to understand why was he angry. Of course he's angry. He's angry because the people are repeating the same complaint they had 40 years ago. But I want to find out, are they really repeating the same complaint they had 40 years ago? And where are we going wrong? What did the people complain? The people complained if we would have died at the death of our brothers before the Lord. Why did you bring us to the desert to die? Why did you take us out of Egypt to this bad place? It's not a place of seeds, figs, grapes, and pomegranates. There's no water to drink. I said before that we're talking about the first month of the 40th year. The people know that this year they're going into the land. And the Torah says it's the first month, but the Torah doesn't tell us. The Torah doesn't tell us. The Torah doesn't tell us what year it was. And I think this is a very important point. Listen carefully. The 40th year, the people know they're on their way to Egypt. It's the land of Canaan. But the question, the very big question is, what does it mean? Are we right now, at the beginning of the year, we're entering the land? Or are we the beginning of the 40th year of the desert? Listen carefully what I'm saying. And it's a very important point. In the eyes of Moses, when he heard the people complaining, he said, oh my God, I'm hearing the same complaints I heard 40 years ago. We're now on the 40th year. It's the first month of the 40th year. But for the people, that was not the situation. They asked Moses, why did you bring us here to the desert? We want to go to Canaan. They didn't say we want to go back to Egypt. We saw last time in the story of the spies, they said, and they wanted to go back to Egypt. They wanted to cancel everything that was here. The people that are complaining here, what are they complaining? They're complaining they want to be in Israel. They want to reach the land. They're not complaining that they want to go back to Egypt. But Moses didn't hear that. He heard them using the same terminology that they heard that they used before. And he felt that they were complaining against God. And God says, I don't care if they're complaining against me. The question is, do they want me to take them to the land? Or they want to go to a regression? What did God say? God said, take the staff, talk to them, Moses heard the people. Yes, of course, as Robert also says, of course, One of the wrong things was what he said to the people. And we'll read that sentence again. He says to them, listen, you rebels, can we draw water for you from this rock? Not only did he hit the stone with his stick, he yelled at the people. But what did God say? God said, assemble the people at the rock. Talk to the rock. And you shall take water out of the rock. And you shall give the congregation and their livestock to drink. The rock will listen. The rock will listen to the word of God. And you will give the people for the drink. Moses didn't only hit the rock. And he didn't only yell at the people. But he didn't talk to the rock. What does that mean, he didn't talk to the rock? And here's a very important thing I asked before. What is the connection to the death of Miriam? Let us remember who Miriam is. Miriam is Moses' sister. What do we know about Moses and Miriam? When Moses was born, the king had said, put all the babies into the Nile, into the river, and kill them. And they didn't know what to do. The situation was a dead end. The situation was either the kids are going to be, the babies are going to get caught. Yes, the jumbo, I'm trying to develop the point. Miriam was the one who thought out of the box. Some of the babies were thrown into the river. Some of the babies were hidden. They couldn't hide the baby. And Miriam takes the baby, takes Moses, puts him in the reeds near the water. And what does she do? She doesn't give up. She doesn't try to run away. She doesn't even stand there praying. She has faith in God that he's going to save this boy. And it says there, Vatei tatzav achoto. She's standing there because she knows. She doesn't know how it's going to happen. She does not know how it's going to happen. She does not know how it's going to happen, but she knows for sure it's going to happen. She's standing there firm on the ground. She knows God is going to do something to help this baby. And she's very, very determined and devoted. She's standing there, and suddenly she sees the daughter of Pharaoh. She could go, oh my gosh, the daughter of Pharaoh. She doesn't move. She's stable there. She knows. Not only does she know, when she sees that the daughter of Pharaoh picks up the baby and says, wow, it's a baby, and she starts having mercy on the baby, immediately she says, go feed the baby. She's sure this baby is going to be saved, and she is there standing up. I want to compare it to one other part where we met the people of Israel. The people of Israel coming out of Egypt, reaching the dead end. They reached the Red Sea. Red Sea, by the way, it shouldn't be called the Red Sea, by the way, in English. In Hebrew, it's called Yam Suf. It's the Reed Sea. The sea where Moses was hidden in the reeds. So the people of Israel reached the sea, and they look back and they see the Egyptians running after them. And they look ahead and they see the water is there and they don't know what to do. So there are some options. Commit suicide, jump into the water. Commit suicide, go back. Sit there and cry in despair. Pray to God. What does God say? He says, very carefully, he says, what are you yelling at me? Hityatzvu, stand stable. Ur'u et Yeshuat Adonai, and you will see the Savior of God, the salvation of God. Yes, what a story. Moses doesn't know what's going to happen, but he says exactly what Miriam taught us. Stand and you will see it'll be okay. And by the way, ever since crossing the Dead Sea, and they brought them the water. That was the first year. But throughout the desert years, as when they reached the Red Sea, it says that Vayaminu Badonai, and they had faith in God, and they saw God's hand. They saw Vayiru with their eyes. And from then on, 40 years in the desert, they had water. Now Miriam's died. What's on Miriam's death? Miriam's death is the faith in God. What does it mean, faith in God? Some people think that faith in God means I believe God's there. It's not that. It's a life of faith. It's a life of faith, understanding that, listen, I am sure it's going to be okay. And understanding that there's a possibility to think out of the box. And here I want to say something very important. We're now going through days, difficult days. We're all shocked at this corona COVID-19. Something God brought us. And shaking us up. Because we were used to a routine life. We were used to going to our synagogue, to going to our work. We were used to we had a normal life and we knew how to worship God. God's now giving us a challenge. We don't know where it's going to lead. But the teachings that Moses and Aaron are supposed to be teaching us, the teachings that Miriam taught us, stand, be stable, and know that God is going to save. Yes, Charlotte, yes, Moses was a Hebrew baby. And the daughter of Pharaoh saved him. But the sister of Moses, and Miriam, was the one who was sure that it was going to happen. And I want to take this a little wider. In the Bible, in the Torah, water was there from the very beginning of the creation of the world. From the very beginning, it doesn't say that God created the water. It says the Spirit of God was above the water. Ever since the creation of the world, what did God do in the days of creation? He separated the water, separated the up water and the down water, and the dry land and the seas. The water was there. The water is the language God talks to the people. And the stone can give water also. And when God wants to punish the people, he brings a flood. Or he brings famine, meaning no rain. This is the way God talks to us. The faith in God is talking to us through the water, through the rain, through the water of the red heifer, through the water of the well, through the water. That's the way God is corresponding with us. And the concept is our faith in God. Moses and Aaron took the people of Israel throughout the desert, throughout the wilderness. And in the wilderness, they had to use the stick to bring miracles. Because there's no way to survive in the wilderness without miracles. But when you're on your way to the land, and you're coming to the land, in the land of Israel, you have to work by yourselves, no miracles. God says to Moses, take the stick, talk to the stone. The stone will give water, and you will give water to the people. But Moses raises up his hands, and he hits the stone, and then the people themselves had to go and drink. And here is the story. You're going to the land of Israel, you have to do things by yourself. You can't live only on miracles. And you can't live on orders of sticks and yelling. You have to know how to talk. You have to know how to talk. You have to do. You have to pray. But you have to know how to talk. And the talk of the land of Israel is the talk of Jerusalem. It's the talk of the word of God coming from Jerusalem. It's the talk of prayer to God in Jerusalem, towards Jerusalem. And this is what we're doing in the Shalom Jerusalem Foundation, raising up the faith of the world, united from Jerusalem. And I'm inviting you all to join. Yes, exactly as Charlene says, faith. We're talking about the foundation of faith in Jerusalem. The foundation of faith in Jerusalem. Now, what does it say? Moses was supposed to, it says, listen carefully, take the staff, assemble the congregation, you and your brother Aaron, and speak to the people in the eyes, in front of their eyes. They're supposed to see. And when God goes out and says to them, he says, you didn't believe me and you didn't sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel. What did Moses say? He said to them, Shim'una, listen. He didn't speak to them seeing. When you're in the land, you see the faith. You see the faith. It's not only something from listening. When we received the Torah, we heard and we accepted it in the desert, in the land of Israel. You're coming to see. The city of Jerusalem is called Yerushalayim, seeing Shalom, seeing the land, seeing God. 3 times a year you're supposed to come as a pilgrim to see God. God wanted them to show the people they should see the land when they're going into the land. Moses and Aaron thought that we're talking about the first year of the last year, the month of last year that they were still in the desert. So you can't even know whether the story of Moses and Aaron is a sin and a punishment, or, and here I think it's more than that, it's the concept that they were not the appropriate leaders of the people in the land. Because in the land, excuse me, there was a little bit of a disconnecting. In the land, it's not only doing miracles, it's working, doing, and expecting God to save us. And here is the story. You go to Jerusalem to see the hand of God. We're living in a time where we see with our eyes the miracles of God bringing us back to the land, and now we have to build the land with our hands. And I want to continue and think beyond that. I want to tell you that the story of the land is something that takes time. You need patience. Hitting a stick and coming out the water immediately is desert. It's revolution. In the land, we're talking about evolution. Things happening gradually. Things happening step by step. Talking. Sometimes talking is much slower than when expecting things to happen in a bing, bang, bing. Talking takes much more time. But when you're talking, you're looking at the person in his eye. You're talking and you're connecting. When you come with a stick and you think you're going to solve things with anger or with miracles or with strucking, you don't get to the solution as deep as it is when you're talking. Talking is talking and listening and accepting and looking at even at the stone and understanding that even the stone can give its water. Not because it's forced to by a stick, but because it wants to give water. The land of Israel wants to give its water, its blessings. It wants to give its blessings to the people of Israel. The land wants to give its blessings to the people of Israel. So God says, talk. And here we want to point out something about Miriam. It's very interesting, those of you who know Hebrew. The word Miriam connects to water a few times. The first time we had a problem with water is after the place called Marah, from the name Miriam. And not only that, it says they couldn't drink the water, ki marimim, they were bitter. Marim is the same letters as the word Miriam. In our portion, when Moses says to the people, Shimuna Hamorim, listen, the rebels, also the same letters as the name Miriam. And when Moses raises his hands, Vayarim Moshe, he picks up his hands. Merim is the Hebrew word for picking up. Also the letters of Miriam. But Miriam also had a problem. She had a problem, and the failure of Miriam, we read a few chapters ago when she spoke out against Moses. She spoke and she spoke. Why only did God speak about Moses? And she spoke about Moses, and she also had a problem with her speaking. So here we are. I don't know if Moses was punished because of a sin. There are definitely the point of anger and the point of hitting the stone were definitely not intentional mistakes by Moses, but they were showing that Moses was the perfect leader for the desert, but he was probably not the appropriate leader for the land of Israel. And I want to tell you all as we're concluding this lesson. It's always, it's the, here is the, Agnes is thanking me. I learned so much from you people that are here. Thank you, Agnes. Thank you, Charlene. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Einat. Thank you, Lynn, for joining us today. Thank you, Savior from Zambia. Thank you, Agnes and Marcus from Germany, and Joe Rodriguez, and Danielle, and Or Baruch, and Madhan Babu, and Henki, and thank you all for joining us, and thank you all for leaving us your comments. There's so much helpful, those comments that are here. I want to thank Cindy for joining us, and D. Jumbo for joining us, and Dale for joining us, and Michael the Great Prince for joining us. And I love every one of you, and I'm so happy that you join us. And thank you, Eyal Damti, for joining us. It's wonderful that you're with us. And if you also have any questions, I always love watching them and watching your questions and your answers. Please share the study. Please join the Shalom Jerusalem Foundation, shalomjerusalem.org. Put in your prayer requests. We go up to the Temple Mount every single Monday. Lorraine Ward, Shalom. Every single Monday we're in the Temple Mount. You can put in your prayer requests. Join the Shalom Jerusalem Foundation, shalomjerusalem.org. Thank you for joining us today. On my next course, I'll be speaking about the annexation plan, which is on the table now, and about the threats we're receiving from all over the world that we shouldn't bless the land. Thank you all for your wonderful, beautiful words. Thank you, Cindy. I enjoy your coming, and it's so wonderful that you're here, all of you. Shalom, shalom from Jerusalem. Love you all.